What's up guys, Dzeeff here, and as you know, 2021 is coming to an end in just a few short days, so I thought it would be fun to go through all 4 of the core sets that were released this year, Blazing Vortex, Lightning Overdrive, Dawn of Majesty, and Burst of Destiny, and talk about the highlights and the cards that maybe weren't as successful. I did this with Farfa the other day on his live stream, so in today's video you are seeing a clip from his live stream. We had a great time going through the 4 core sets that were released this past year. Originally, I was going to post this as one video, but it ended up being like 30 minutes long. So for today's video, we are going to be talking about Blazing Vortex and Lightning Overdrive, and we'll have part 2 of our 2021 recap in a few days. So today, because it's like the end of the year basically, or the last month of the year, I thought it'd be fun to go through each of the 4 core sets, because going through the side sets would take like 2 hours. We're not here for that long. So I thought we would go through the 4 core sets and basically just give like our overall, like, especially now that it's been like a year since some of these have been released, our overall just opinions on these sets, and then say our favorite card, or the card we thought was like most influential out of the set, and then our least favorite card, or like the biggest flop of the set in our opinion. The first set was Blazing Vortex, which had your favorite archetype in it, War Rocks.
I have still in front of me here an entire collection of mountains. Ready to go to the moon, baby.
Those did not get reprinted in the Megatons, right? I don't think they did.
No, not yet. It hasn't been reprinted, so I'm still sitting on a gold mine, potentially.
So looking through this set, you know, this was a rough one. I think this was like probably the worst set of the year. Maybe Lightning Overdrive was, but man, yeah, looking through here, there's a lot of bad cards. This is basically Prosperity, this set, and because we had like Spriggans were in here, War Rocks were in here. Obviously, the Metalfoe stuff was cool, but not like super competitive.
So on War Rocks, really quick, just let's get the elephant out of the room here. This archetype was extremely disappointing from the onset, right? Because usually when a new archetype is introduced, it might not have a ton of things it can do because it just needs a little more cards, right? But you can tell that it has like a sort of win condition developing and evolving from the beginning. You could see that with B-Trooper. You could see that with Dangers. You could see that with Spiral, right? So on their first waves, they weren't like incredible, but there was like a strategy. War Rocks is a deck whose entire strategy is to attack your opponent, which is great if it's 2006, you know?
Yeah. Well, but it does nothing. I've seen your video against Goat Control. I don't know if it's even good.
It doesn't have anything going for it. Like, it's got like a special summon, which you can make a Zolde, and I guess do non-War Rock related things with it. Right. But other than that, it's like, it's a deck that is battle phase centric, and generally battle phase centric decks tend to fail because main phase disruption is so prevalent in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And even as a rogue deck and as like a fun deck, I don't see the appeal. It's very slow. It's just attack pass. I remember Underdog, which was a cool secret rare, but it's like a very just... It's like a floodgate, but there's just other cards that are better than this.
Yeah. I also completely forgot about, even though it's like the cover card of the set, like the big new archetype in the set was supposed to be the Armed Dragon Thunders, which completely flopped. Like, it's crazy how much those cards flopped. Even the E-Telly that people thought was going to be played in Dragon Link, and Dragon Link has been competitive since the set has been
And that was like the one good card they had was the E-Telly.
And still no one played it. It turns out that like dragons have so many good extenders that they don't need that kind of stuff. Yeah, this set sucks. Like, looking back at it, like, holy shit, I mean, yeah, I think for me, there's really only like 2 impactful cards in the set, Pot of Prosperity and Tri-Brigade Kit. Tri-Brigade Kit, really big release. I mean, that matters quite a bit, actually. But yeah, for me, I think the best card of the set was Pot of Prosperity, like, by far, in terms of influence. But what about you?
I'm a big fan of Metalfoes, and I loved that deck back when Pendulum didn't, get murdered by the game mechanics. So the entire win condition of Metalfoes is that you have this deck that constantly destroys itself to, fill up the extra, and then you bring them all back. That was the idea.
Yeah, that was cool.
Falls apart completely with the new changes. The one really good card they got in this set was Parametalfoes Fusion, which allows you to basically fuse out of your extra deck to send to the grave, and then you can like bounce your own scale with a Mithrilium turn 1 to then get back more advantage. So this was probably their best card, ironically. They got like a Fusion Pendulum, which is kind of gimmicky and does like a nice little disruption, but I feel like requires a lot of setup. But other than that, It's a very poor set. The support for Metaphors was kind of neat, but not enough to make a deck whose win condition was destroying be good in Pendulum, right? It cannot work with the new rules.
I mean,
so.
It was like a fun rogue deck before we got any other releases. Like I remember MET played it a lot, but in terms of competitive play after that, not so much. What do you think the biggest flop of this set was, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it has to just be War Rocks, right? Like this was the world premiere for this set, right? And it is the worst archetype we've ever had as a TCG exclusive, at least. Maybe not ever, but it's so bad.
I think ever is fair.
Yeah, I mean, there's S-Forces in here as well, which is a new deck. That was unplayable.
That deck was going to be competitive, yeah.
I feel like other than the Prosperity, the best card in the set was what? The Virtual World Gate Zhuanwu, which allows you to, which is like a decent part of the Virtual World combo. But, I mean, after VFD got hit, that deck just significantly got worse, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and Tri-Brigade Kit. I mean, that's a pretty big deal as well.
Oh, really quick, we forgot about Underworld. That was a good card from Blavo. It's not like it hasn't been
in that set. I thought it was Overdrive.
Underworld Goddess? Yeah, I think the only good secrets were Prosperity and Underworld Goddess, right, chat? It was Blazing Vortex, I believe.
Oh, that was in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tatsum will kill us if we don't mention it. Yeah, Underworld Goddess was a pretty good card.
I love that card because it's like your opponent doesn't expect, like, if you have just a bunch of bodies on the field and then you just go like, okay, link away your boss monster.
Yeah, but it's quite tough to set up. Dolces, it was really fun, like getting rid of Arrival Cybers when people were playing that deck. People like you, actually.
But yeah, other than that, I think we covered most of the important cards.
Yeah, we can go to Lightning Overdrive. So after what was probably one of the worst core sets we've had in a long time, besides like 3 cards, we moved on to Lightning Overdrive. It doesn't help with either of these sets that, like more than half of the world premiere slots are taken up by War Rocks once again, and once again, they don't do anything. But this one had like some interesting ideas, a bit more competitive here. It had amazements. It had the Black Rose Dragon stuff, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so speaking of Arrival Cybers, this was Lightning Overdrive, the set that had a bunch of the important cards. The Link 1, of course. You know, Field Spell
that's
Searcher.
A huge change. Yeah, just add a Link 1 to a deck that adds a field spell. Easy.
Yeah. Nothing really to expand upon that, but I think Lightning Overdrive is a little bit slept on. I mean, there's a lot of like good individual cards I feel here. Like Bear Brum's in here, Diviner's in here. There's Fafnir. There's some huge like meta-defining cards in this set.
Ruddy Rose is actually seeing play now in Sword Soul.
It took a while.
Kind of become less common, but it is like a good option, especially in like the grindy matchups, because you can just banish their entire graveyard.
Yeah. It's a great wave in Sword Soul if you can bait out DPE. You just Ruddy Rose banish the whole grave, and you get rid of the draws as well off of the Celestial. Lina is a nice card. This is one of the Charmer monsters, and as we're slowly filling up all the attributes, I think we get up to one of the best attributes in the game, Light. Some good targets you can bring back with Lina to help you link climb, and I think all that's left is Dark in Battle of Chaos coming soon.
Right. That's just around the corner. Oh, this set also had Amazements, which I actually put on my video yesterday. It was like one of the biggest flops in my opinion, but at least it did see like some experimentation. I just think they're like bootleg Altergeist coming from an Altergeist player. I mean, they have like a
there's some similarities.
They have a Mirror Shatter without Protocol, but
it's hard to not see the parallels. Something.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed good on paper because it was like Altergeist without the multi-figure restriction, but they're just not strong enough, unfortunately.
Do you remember Gage absolutely creaming over Book of Lunar Eclipse?
Yeah, I mean, he said it was like a steal at $8, which I think that historically, like if we went back, that card probably would have been good at some point in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. But I just remember when people were talking about that card at the time, I was playing Book of Moon in my deck. Book of Moon was pretty popular that format, and I was just thinking like, man, I would not want to discard for this. Like, I just prefer just activating Book of Moon, because like so many times you're using it to like bait the negation or just on one normal summon, and then Book of Lunar Eclipse just doesn't work in those situations. I
mean, -1 straight up off of Book of Moon is usually worth it, depending on the situation. -2 for a Lunar Eclipse is, that's quite heavy.
It was missing the, I don't know if this would have made a big difference, but it was missing the up to 2 targets. So unlike Twin Twisters, which is you can target 1 or 2, Book of Lunar Eclipse had to be 2, which was pretty tough. Alyssa had the Black Eyes, the Plunder Patrol Sea Guide, which didn't quite revolutionize Plunder in the way that people thought it would, but it did help him out quite a bit.
It's a great main deck card. It's absolutely a staple 3 of, but the main thing that Plunder needed for support was a new ship, some attributes, like, you know. especially now,
Yeah.
which is really funny because the two attributes that are missing is Earth and Wind, and that is exactly the format we're in. Is like Tri Brigades and Lyrilusks.
Yeah.
It's a bit rough. I guess Sword Soul is like an okay matchup for Plunder, maybe, but yeah, they need a new ship.
I'm sure it's around the corner, maybe. I don't know. Is that being a little too optimistic? Oh, this set also had, which ended up not being as big of a deal, but it did have Scrap Raptor, which was very hyped. And even though it didn't
Surprised it
end
was
up
in a common as
seeing,
well.
yeah, people were like really surprised with that. I thought at least it would be an ultra rare. Card was so
Mm.
hyped up. It was good. It doesn't help that I don't have the exact date pulled up, but I think that weren't dinosaurs hit like 1 week after the set was released, or like a couple weeks after the set was released. I don't remember when the ban list was. Maybe it was like right before, but right around the time this card was released, Misk went to 1, if I remember correctly. So then at that point, it was like, I mean,
The
Misk
one
at 1.
like cool thing about Scrap Raptor was like
Mhm.
it randomly gave Orcust 6 starter cards just by itself. So
Yeah.
you had Scrap Raptor plus Fossil Dig. So Orcust could randomly become very consistent turn 1. Arguably even more, actually. Is there even more ways to get to it? Yeah, so just by itself, it meant that Orcust was able to have a little bit more of a consistent turn 1 opening, which we saw at, I think it was the Extravaganza. What was the event I streamed? It was like a Konami Extravaganza or something.
Yeah.
And, there was a guy who got really far, and he did really well, and he was playing Scrap Raptor. So I suppose that was like the cool thing. I mean, you could do like these nifty like FTK style boards in Dino, but for the most part, it was like, I think it was a pretty cool Orcus card more than anything. So outside of the obvious meta-defining cards like Bear Brum and stuff like that, I thought the Utopia cards were kind of cool.
Okay.
The Twin Saber is really nice. It's a card that you can equip immediately out of your deck using, I think, the Utopic Ray Xyz monster. And it lets you negate a monster effect that your opponent controls on the field, but it doesn't start a chain, which is absurd. Because
Yeah.
you can negate mid-chain with this card. It's crazy. So yeah, this was a really cool card they got. Ascended Sage is amazing as well. It's just a free special summon. And then when you overlay with it, it immediately gets you a rank up card. So they had like some cool tools. I messed around with Utopias for a bit, but
Have you tried them with the Brothers of Legend support?
I have, yeah, no, I actually really have, and I tried really hard to make that deck work, and I don't know, it was too hard. It was just really vulnerable to disruption. I think it's cool. It does a lot. Like the basic combo, like 2-3 card combo, is very strong, but it's very vulnerable.
No, I think that looking at this set after just looking at Blazing Vortex makes me realize that like this set wasn't nearly as bad, but from a value standpoint, there just weren't a lot of like good cards to pull. So I think people look back on it pretty badly. But comparing them right next to each other, this one clearly has like a lot of other better cards. I mean, I really think that Blazing Vortex has like exactly 3 good cards. But this one has like a number of good cards. There just weren't that many good secret rares to pull.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, if you're pulling Dark Honest and Bahalutia instead of Diviner,
yeah,
you're
those
kind of
feel
like
right next to each other on the database. Like, oh,
you're gonna be really upset.
This set also had that Pendulum level 5 monster, which yeah, shout out to like Lithium and stuff. I mean, this card's really crazy powerful in Monarchs. Like Monarchs probably aren't a good deck anymore, but
Which
holy
card?
shit,
Oh, this guy.
Yeah, I can't pronounce the name, but the guy that has like a string of letters. It's a
Cards in your
Upstart
extra deck.
Goblin. It's a tribute fodder card. It's
Okay.
just so good for Monarchs.
It's a light as well, which works with Pallades and your Prime Monarch. That's cool.
Yeah, and Tatsum was trying out. You can use Chaos Space to search it because it can't be normal summoner set, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so what would you say that your favorite card from this set was that you got the? I mean, you used the Ad Ignister stuff, but is it something else?
Yeah, I think at the time it would definitely had to have been Dark Infant, like because it gave the deck so much just off of one card. You know, it's incredible. Like a +1 link 1 that searches you like a multiple turn extender. It has to be like the best support a deck could ask for, really.
I didn't really use a lot of the cards from this set. Recently I have been using Ruddy Rose Dragon. So I guess that's really it. I don't know. There's a lot of like good cards in the set, but I didn't really use any of the cards in the set other than Ruddy Rose Dragon up until like a month ago. So
Yeah.
for me, I didn't really like the set that much because I wasn't playing like I wasn't playing Tri Brigade, I wasn't playing Drytron. But it is like overall a pretty good set. How about for the biggest flop? You know, a card that people thought was going to be good ended up being pretty bad? Any ideas?
Flop? I wouldn't say Scrap Raptor is a flop, but it just wasn't as good as it was hyped up to be.
For me, and this is going to kind of come out from left field, but a lot of people were hyping up Garden Rose Flora when the set was announced or when it was coming out. I mean, people were really talking about how good this card would be in like combo decks, and it completely flopped. Like, I don't think it saw play at all, which is kind of hilarious. Like, I remember that the tiny Black Rose engine was seeing play in like a couple Dragon Link decks, but not Garden Rose Flora. Like, this card just wasn't relevant at all, but I saw people like hyping it up. Like, and I remember that because I made a video, my Konami sponsored video was on the Black Rose support, and there were like mostly positive comments about Garden Rose Flora, not the other cards. And yet they all basically did nothing.
Yeah, the original level 5 synchro was just better. It just
Yeah.
enabled like more silly things you could do.